Hi, welcome to the Get Ready with God podcast. My name is Julie Taylor and I am your host, and I am not God. Obviously, I'm not an expert. I'm not even a scriptorian. I'm literally just a girl sitting in front of a microphone hoping God is real. The Get Ready with God podcast is the daily devotional podcast to help you see divinity in every day. Has it been hard to see divinity? Things have been pretty intense, but I think we say that all the time, which actually is something that I'd like to discuss because there's been a lot of talk for a long time, but specifically recently around how things have never been worse. Like the world is getting worse and worse. I don't actually think that's true. What I think is different is that our expectations have changed, and as they should. But like as technology has advanced, as safety has advanced, we have different expectations. We have higher expectations for survival and for safety, and we feel more entitled to peace and goodness. And that's all good. But when you read history books, much of what we're facing is not new, and much of what we're facing is not worse than what has been in the past. But we have different expectations. We have higher expectations, as we should. I'm not saying that it's wrong to have higher expectations, but there is this narrative where it's like, oh, things have never been worse. And I just don't know. I don't think that's true, but I also don't think it's helpful. Sometimes it can be helpful to validate our own suffering and struggle by saying man, this has never been worse. But I think that's very an absolute way. So maybe we validate and comfort ourselves by saying this is a lot, this is intense, this is hard, this is scary, because those things are true. But to need to paint a narrative that things have never been worse is a little bit egocentric of do we have to make ourselves feel like we are facing the worst times ever? I think for me, it helps to gain some respect from when I talk to my grandma who is 90, as a culture, we dismiss old people and we don't respect them and value them. And we're more annoyed by them. Maybe some of their opinions are outdated and we all feel smarter and better than the previous generation. But when you really sit down and learn from them, you start to see the crazy stuff that they faced and how in many ways it was much worse for them than we have it. Anyways, I don't think it's ever helpful to compare suffering and to compare struggles, but I think it specifically can be problematic when we need to paint our world as the worst it's ever been. In my faith, it's a very common narrative, and people like to view it as a fulfillment of prophecy of things are going to get worse and worse and worse, and then Jesus is going to come. And it's a common narrative in my faith that I've been hearing a lot of oh, we just need it to end. We just need Jesus to come. And I don't think that's a helpful perspective. Whether it's true or not, or whether it's real or not, that's up to you, to what you want to subscribe to. But I just don't think it's helpful to sit in a place where it's everything's getting worse and it's just going to keep getting worse until Jesus comes. That's not an action-based belief. And it's a very disempowering belief of we just have to sit here while things get worse until it ends. I don't think that's helpful. And I also don't think it's the case. For me, what feels more helpful is this. You can validate how hard things are right now. Things are heavy, things are dark, things are hard, both personally, culturally, and globally. However, there are things that can be done. We are not just here to sit here passively and let the darkness consume us and to talk to each other all day and all night about how bad and terrible things are. That's not what we are being asked to do, I don't think. And when we look at historical context, when you talk to the people older than you in your life, you'll see that globally, culturally, and personally, people for as long as time has existed have persisted, have carried on, have found a way through, have found a way to keep going, and have often found resolution to at least parts of the darkness that they're experiencing. And while we might feel kind of helpless on a global level or even a cultural level, I do think it's important to keep ourselves grounded and remember things have been this bad and worse, and people have always kept going. And there is something that we can do other than just passively sit here and wait for things to get so bad and hope that it ends at some point. Last night I was able to go to a grief gathering, and it was for families who have experienced infant loss. And I don't usually engage in things like that. I don't know why. It just hasn't been something that I've wanted to do. There's a friend I have in my neighborhood who her baby passed away a few years ago, and she's been really kind and helpful to me in a very specific way as I've navigated this loss over the last almost 2 years now. And she invited me, and she knows that I don't go. So she often invites me to things, and she's like, I know you don't go to these things, but this one I felt like I wanted to go. And so I was really grateful to her for persistently inviting me, because I say no so often, but she always lets me say no, and she always invites me again, which I think is a really beautiful form of friendship and love and outreach. And so we went, and it was another mom who had lost a baby, has like turned her yard into a flower garden, a stunning, beautiful flower garden. And she had this night where all of us who have experienced a loss like that were able to go and cut ourselves a bouquet, a fresh flower bouquet. And it was quiet, and she had music playing, and it was beautiful. We were just able to walk around with our little vases and make bouquets. And it was really, really a beautiful experience for me to be in nature, to be with flowers, to be in a safe place. I didn't really talk to anyone, but just to like look around and be like, everyone here knows grief. And we didn't talk about it. It was quiet. And we all just kind of went about our way gathering flowers. But just to be in an atmosphere where you look around and you're like, everyone here knows the pain and the grief. And we're all here. And the most powerful part of it to me, though, was this woman, and I wish I remembered her name, to witness what she had turned her grief into. She had taken her own pain and her own grief and turned it into this beautiful flower garden and this give back. And we were able to donate money to cover the funeral flowers for other families going through their own loss. And it was just such a beautiful testament of what is possible when we allow ourselves to take our pain and take our grief and turn it into something different. And when we do that, I think it's the only way to survive, truly, because if we don't turn it into something, it just corrodes our soul and eats us alive and makes it impossible to carry on. And so I think it's the only way to survive is to turn it into something. But as much as I don't want to be a part of this grief world and this community, I think the biggest gift of it all is to be able to firsthand experience like what I can turn my grief into, but also witnessing the resilience and the persistence and the creativity of what people take their pain and what they turn it into, and how they turn it into things that lift, inspire, and share beauty and goodness. And often the most beautiful things are born from the deepest, darkest pain. I was just thinking last night how beautiful it was, how powerful of a metaphor it was for me to see this woman turn her pain into this garden, quite literally. And then I was just thinking about how no great love in my life has never not asked me to endure pain. My closest relationships, my family, my marriage, my children, the things that I love the very most, my relationship with God, my faith, all of these things that I love and cherish the very most in my life, at some point have asked me to do hard things, to suffer, to endure pain. And I just don't think that love exists without it. And so when we look around at the world, it's so easy to get discouraged because there's plenty of evidence to support that. And it's okay to spend a season there, but I think what we have to do is keep turning it into something. There's darkness, there's pain, there's cruelty, there's violence. There's so much bad, and it affects us in different ways at different times. But our job is when we cross paths with this pain, we have to turn it into something for our own survival and also for the survival of the world. And if we will commit to do that, that's how we'll get through. And not just get through, but actually share light and make it spread and inspire more goodness. But if you're feeling overwhelmed and discouraged with darkness, give yourself some grace and validate that this is a lot. Our world is a lot. And not just the world. Every person I talked to personally in the last few weeks. And so it is a lot. Give yourself some grace, validate that heaviness and that pain and that intensity, but don't let yourself believe that it's never been this bad and that there's no path forward. Because that's not true. We can't spend time believing that. We have to turn it into something. It's the only way. And I think that we can do it. I believe in you. I believe in me. I believe in God. And together, I think we can actually do that. So let's keep going and let's turn it all into something good. I hope you can see that today in yourself and others. I love you so much. Goodbye.